do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
This was a fork in the road of human civilization.
There is some evil shit going on with this bloody computer, I tell you. Every time I'm just about to start the show, it drops the camera out. Hello, folks. How are you? What day is it? I think it's Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? I'm a little unsure. There is a lot to talk about today. I hope you are all doing very, very well. I've had one of those days. We'll get to talking about it. G'day, Andrew D. Smith. You were first in. Nice to have you in. Spazza, you've been ringing me, mate. Today's just been deadly. I'll try and talk to you tonight or tomorrow morning. I think will probably be better. Hello, Sunflower. I owe you a phone call too. My life at the moment is filled with phone calls, but they seem to be with other people, which is good. Some of them I'm helping. Some of them are helping me, and some of them are just problematic, but we'll work our way through it. What there's in the house. Nice to have you, mate. Dave O, Paul, Debs, Sandy K, God love you. You've been waiting for the notification and nothing came through. Absolutely bloody typical. I just need that John Cleese at the end of it. That'd be great. Typical. Yeah, look, I don't know. The show, for some reason, isn't going out on Rumble tonight either. There's been some sort of a breakup or a breakdown or a break something or other in the Rumble stream. So I don't know what's going on there, but Vince, if he is able, will, of course, copy the show over there at some point tonight. God love him. He's a very, very good man. Hello, Michelle Bradley Smith. I hope you are doing well. Hello, Margot. Clayton, good to have you in the house, big fella. Johanna. Aussie Sue. Your ears must have been burning. We were talking about you today. We were talking about Mount Isa, and then we started talking about you. So we forgot about Mount Isa. It was all about you after that. Brett Lampard, Leonard, hello, mate. Good to see you. Ads, Agate Master, who have I missed? Harm's in the house. I hope you and Ebs are doing all right, mate. Hello, Denise, and to everybody else who's just starting to pile in. Beck Freedom is in the house today. Got to say hello, Beck. Lovely to have you. Hope you are well, darling. I haven't spoken to you this year yet, I don't think. So hopefully catch up soon. I'll be in your part of the world. So with a bit of luck, we'll catch up there. Oh, speaking of Becks, I've got to apologise to Becky at Truth Seekers today. I was meant to be on a chat with SG Anon, and I couldn't make it in the end. We've been trying to have this chat now. I think today is the third time. SG's forgotten about it the first two times, and I couldn't make it today. So I don't know. We may get it together at another stage, but we'll see how that goes. Hopefully maybe one day next week, but SG is a busy man, and so too is Beck. So we've got to get ourselves together. G'day, Pete from Barbaria. The computer says it's Tuesday. That's generally where I look too. But I've got something popping up at the moment that's sort of covering all of that for some reason. G'day, Connie. Hope you are well, sweetheart. And Alan is doing well too. Gisela, Dusty, I hope you are doing all right in your part of the world, mate. Nice. You might see me come down through your part of the world in a little while. Wayno from Wilmo. G'day. I hope you're doing all right, mate. Must be only, 47 degrees there today. How's life in the Flinders Ranges? For those who don't know, Wayno from Wilmo is Wilmington. Look it up if you're going for a bit of a lap, or you're planning on doing a trip up the centre to maybe the Rock or all the way to Darwin for what's happening on July 1st. Northern Territory Day or Territory Day. Huge celebration. Anyone can buy fireworks. Is that the reason to go to Northern Territory? Probably. However, I don't know if I'll get there this year, but we'll certainly make an effort. In fact, that was part of the conversation that led to why we were talking about Aussie Sue in Mount Isa, because if I do wind up in the Northern Territory for Territory Day, we will come through Mount Isa, and no doubt stop and stay a while just to catch up with the lovely Aussie Sue. And she can show us around what I remember to be a pretty interesting town. I've only been there once, and it was in a rally car, a variety club rally car, in about 1990, I want to say. And we stopped at a special school for lunch. I remember that because we had a lot of special people with us, and put on a bit of a show for the kids. It was a great day from memory. And then my overarching memory is the mine at the end of what I presume to be the main street, or one of the streets, or just at the end of town. And I always wanted to go there and have a bit of a look and see if you can get in. And you can apparently do tours, but I haven't done it. Fires are out, says Wayno. Yeah, I did hear there were fires up your way. Pete from Pinaroo was a bit concerned about you. He had me ask about you, and I think I probably forgot. So my apologies. I'm glad the fires are out, though, mate. And have you dug that pool yet? Might find it useful if the fires get a bit close. Jinder Lee's in the house. G'day, dude. I haven't seen you in here for a little while, or maybe you've just been quiet. Maria. What there? I think I'm starting to repeat people's names. So, all right, let's kick on into what is going to be an interesting show. Depends. I mean, we can go through the whole Doge list of what they've found so far in waste in America. Now, waste is the first name it's being given, but following that, there are many other names I think it's going to be given, like theft, embezzlement, good words like that. But first, let's kick off with some Australian news. Here's something you're not going to be at all surprised about, given the way our education system works at the moment. Those with beans for brains and the power to make these sorts of decisions to influence our children have decided to use Aboriginal dance as a way of teaching our children maths. I'll say it one more time. They've decided they are going to teach our primary school age children, I'm not sure if it's not high school, but definitely primary school age children, maths using Aboriginal dance. Now, I'm not wishing to be disrespectful to anybody who is into Aboriginal dance, or who is an Aboriginal dancer, or is indeed of First Nations origin. I know nothing about Aboriginal dance, and I'm just trying to figure out, being a dumb white bloke, I am just trying to figure out how you would use Aboriginal dance to teach maths. So I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, I have seen the dance, a couple of dances, and I do understand, I know the movement for an emu, and I know the movement for a kangaroo. I know the movement for lizards and that sort of stuff. And there is a bit of feet stamping that goes on there. So, the emu could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just go with the rhythm of the emu walking. That could work. I mean, it's not Sesame Street, but it is close to Big Bird. Let's be honest. I mean, there's the kangaroo hops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, sorry, miss. Can't see him again. So you can get to 8 or 9 maybe. I was thinking, what other Aboriginal dance animals, which is mostly what is being shown in Aboriginal dance, animals. So I'm thinking what other animals are used in Aboriginal dance, and I've seen a dance with a crocodile. I'm wondering if our children are going to be taught how to count by some kid who bites another kid, being a crocodile, and we all get to go home and count the teeth marks. I don't know how it's going to work. Seriously, how do you... That's our education system, folks. Your kids, your grandkids, if you are still silly enough to have them, are in the public and or private system. And if they're not being taught this yet, it's coming. God help us. God help us. They are dumbing down our youth. They are neutering them in so many ways, of course, with the trans world taking its claws out and plunging them deeply into the youngest in our communities. I'm really pleased to see that in New Zealand, at least, and, you know, you kind of expect the Maori blokes to stand up. They are standing up. Over the weekend, there was a rainbow parade held in Auckland. You guessed it, a whole bunch of blokes dressed as girls out the front. Well, they came across a whole group of young men. These are, I would say, of age from teenage through to mid-40s. They are very, very awake. They are not woke in any way, shape, or form. I would advise you have a look at how they handled this parade and have a look at their T-shirts. Their T-shirts, the black ones at least, are called Man Up. So this is a Kiwi version of how you combat Rainbow Parade stupidity. I particularly like the fact that the police line started shooing them away after the boys, the bulk of them had turned away and were starting to walk off. Anyway, that's when they got, get away, yep, out of the way. But I mean, that's the way to stop a bloody parade, isn't it? Seriously. Good luck to them. I think that is a spectacular thing. I wish Australians had something like the haka that we could unite behind. And, well, we'll see. But yeah, bloody great effort from the Kiwis, and more of it should be seen here. Can I say that without getting myself in trouble? Maybe not. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Okay, some interesting things have gone on in America in the last few days, and God knows, interesting they are. One of the more radical things, and I'm just trying to find the bloody overlay for it, where have I left that? One of the more radical things is the fact that in America right now, you don't need to have a license to drive your car. Are you serious? Yes, you don't need a license to drive your car. The US Supreme Court says so. Now, I haven't read the whole story. I only got this late this afternoon. But the decision basically reads that the US Supreme Court and other high court citations proving that no license is necessary for normal use of an automobile on American roads. Isn't that interesting? Bear that in mind, because a little later on, I'm going to play another video that's about a little over 4 minutes long, but it will explain to you why what's happening there in America is not that distant to us. And that has a lot to do with the fact that America has been a crown colony of the UK since, well, forever. But you try and tell some American friends that and see how well they take it. They don't take it very well, but they do after they've done a little bit of investigation, and that's certainly what I can show you tonight, a lot of investigation. So we'll get to that in just a little while. We'll go through some of the things that have happened over the weekend. 1,300 employees from the CDC were laid off over the weekend. And the property market in Virginia has gone through the roof. What do you mean going through the roof? Well, have a look at this. Homes in Virginia. Now, Virginia is the state that surrounds, if you like, Washington, D.C. The CIA base is there. Many government agencies and buildings and everything else are in Virginia. And it's very easy to live in Virginia and work in Washington, D.C. It's a very short commute. So all these properties have all of a sudden gone up for sale in that area. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, wonderful, all these dead black hats are finally, being sold up. Well, not necessarily the case. What it appears is the case is 75,000 government employees accepted the buyout offer that Donald Trump gave them the day he became president. Ostensibly, he offered to give them a severance pay, a buyout to get out of their jobs now and not have any kind of legal argument or recourse later down the track. And I don't know if they were expecting 75,000 to take it, but 75,000 have. And a lot of those have houses in Virginia and Washington, D.C. So given that Doge is doing such a cleanup at the moment, one would wonder whether or not there'll be anybody moving to Washington to fill any of those positions at all. And in fact, it goes on. The Federal Workers Union is set to try and sue to stop US AIDs dismantling and cutting the dollars to the workforce. They're going to cut the workforce of federal workers, at least from 10,000 down to 300 is what they're saying here. That's US AID, who have been responsible for some of the most amazing wastage of public money. And we're calling it wastage at the moment because to do anything else would be to assert criminal doings. We'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly. Anyway, Elon Musk has had an interesting comment that he's passed. He found, he found that there were a lot of interesting things going on in various different agencies. But when it came to Google searches in and around Washington, he was really surprised to find that Google search listed the highest number one priority search coming out of Washington, D.C. recently was lawyers. I mean, that's a Google analytic. The usual track for how many people inquire about lawyers is the almost flat line you're seeing there at the bottom. And then all of a sudden, a huge jump. What does that say to you? Think somebody's got something to worry about. Now, there is some Gold Coast madness, and isn't it wonderful? The Gold Coast is usually leading the way in so many interesting ways. But right now, it's leading the way in how to tax its residents in new, interesting, and improved manners. Now, today there was a march. I only saw this flyer that I'll put up shortly before I started tonight's show. I didn't realize that it was on today. If I had have, I wouldn't have been able to attend because I was otherwise engaged. But there is another march happening on the 18th of March next month, where the residents, the owners of high-rise apartments in the Gold Coast, are marching to complain quite loudly, I assume, at the new view tax that the Gold Coast Council have placed on anybody who owns property above the 40th floor. In fact, they've actually placed it on any property above the 11th floor. But if you're above the 40th floor, you're going to pay at least 50% more for your rates than you do right now. Now, let's just think about this for a minute. There are some magnificent places that are residential living, that their owners live in the properties, and quite a lot of them will live above the 40th floor. Most of those people these days would be retired, or they are living the high life and can afford to pay twice the amount they're already paying for rates. Why would you? Is council doing that much for you that you feel they're due that sort of rate increase? So you're going to get a percentage rate rise if you live above the 11th floor, but if you're above the 40th, it's 50%. So they've organised these marches, which are happening from Elkhorn Avenue on the corner of Elkhorn and the Esplanade. And from there, they're marching to the seat of all evil on the Gold Coast, as far as I'm concerned, the Hota building. That's the devil worshipping building with the blue person hanging a baby upside down, a scum baby upside down at the front door. That's a fair walk in Queensland heat this time of year in March. And I'd have to say a lot of the residents living above the 40th floor may not be able to walk that far. So be prepared the 18th of March to find a lot of electric scooters on the road, little electric buggies, while these folks go out. And if you'd like to join them, of course, you are more than welcome. I'll put the flyer up there. So the one today obviously went off successfully. There'll be another one Tuesday, the 18th of March. You can see there where it's starting from Immediate Surface Paradise Beach opposite the Montmartre Cafe. Is that Montmartre? Oh, well, there's a cafe on the corner of the Esplanade and Elkhorn Avenue. Bring your placards and banners and, well, quite possibly a battery charger. Just saying. Doge have announced they've got a new audit target. Last night I told you that they were heading off to have a nice little look into NASA. And boy, ain't that going to be an interesting set of figures when it comes out. I wonder whether or not they'll actually find all the money. So far, there is a phenomenal amount of missing money. One government department doesn't know where $500 million went. That's just one. The Pentagon doesn't, well, the last time it was audited, it didn't know where I think it was $3.9 trillion was. So the place that's going to be audited for the first time since 1974 might throw up quite a number of little curveballs, because that place is Fort Knox. Now, Fort Knox is in Kentucky. It is one of two US gold and precious metal depositories. It is guarded day and night, as you would expect. And I want to say the Kentucky National Guard is part of that. That's also got its own private guard system. And it is not just America's gold that resides there. A number of other countries store portions of their gold reserve in Fort Knox as well, just in case something catastrophic were to happen in their country. These are European countries, mainly France, Germany, maybe a bit from the UK as well. And Canada, I believe, stores a bit there too. There are a lot of other Eastern Bloc sort of countries that have been storing particularly precious metals there of late. Ukraine leading the pack. Who would have thought? I mean, be still my heart. Dr. Fauci's been exposed again. It's happening almost daily, isn't it? Only this time it's quite a horror story. The deal is that Fauci has headed up and held the bucket of money for some researchers who went to him and said, hey, listen, we really need a bucket load of money. And he gave them something like $500 million to test transgender surgeries and treatments on animals. I guess you'd probably want to try it on animals before you try it on humans. But yeah, transgender surgeries, $500 million. That's $500 million to do that over the years. He has also funded somewhere in the vicinity of well over $1 billion worth of other testing on animals. Now, I'm not too sure, but I think a lot of that testing will have taken place outside of the American borders. They would have funded testing in places like China and other countries who have less stringent, shall we say, laws on that sort of thing. And this is where Fauci, who has been found already to have funded the gain of function research that went into making the spicy cough. Now, many people have asked, what is gain of function? What does that actually really truly mean? In the sense of a vaccine or the sense of a medication, it means to weaponize it. That's literally the definition of it all. So they have to tell us what they do, and they certainly do that. I've got one last thing I wanted to throw up here as a still. I've got a couple of videos I want to play you yet, but this looks like a Trump tweet or truth or whatever they are, X, but I'm not completely sure that it is. Can you pick why? Lying Chuck Schumer is at it again with the help of Alex Soros, that's little Georgie, scheming to undo all the great work my administration is doing to make America great again. We found thousands of cases of fraud, waste, and bad for them receipts. Little Georgie funneled millions and billions of taxpayer dollars to third world countries like New Zealand and the Congo. And now it's being reported that the Democrats have created a meme coin, but that'll fail like all their other pathetic attempts to profit off American people. Americans are smart and won't fall for the coin, MAGA. Which part of that makes you doubt that it's actually Trump? It may well be Trump saying that. But the bit about calling New Zealand a third world country, I don't necessarily agree with. And I think there is a bunch of blokes in Auckland that, would greet him in a similar manner for suggesting so. However, I'll be honest. I've been around New Zealand. I got off the boat twice, I think, maybe 3 times. Auckland was one place, but I only walked 2 streets away from the port and had a bit of a look around and got back on the boat and came home. And the other place I was at, I got on the best motorbike ride I've ever had in my life, actually. It took 2, 4, 5 of us plus a driver. It had I think it was a 308 engine in it. Huge chopper, just a magnificent motorbike. Took us all for a ride around Eritrea or somewhere like that. All right. There's more to show you, folks, and interesting things as well. Now, well, let's go through some of the things that Doge have been able to find, shall we? I can share this with you so you don't have to look at me looking away all the time. Let me do that and that and that. Right. So have a look at this. Taxpayers have funded the Unaccompanied Children Program in the US with $19,945,892,007 since 2008. That is child trafficking. And US taxpayers have been unwittingly, unknowingly funding it. $18.5 billion sent from USAID in the last 4 years, laundered through a DA Afghanistan bank and given to terror states located in the Middle East. Terror states? Look at that time frame, the last 4 years. Who are we thinking about there? Well, the Taliban spring immediately to mind. ISIS spring immediately to mind in Syria. And what Al-Qaeda calls itself this week. Who knows? $500 million through a secret NGO, that's a non-government organization, to Internews Network, which is basically a training ground for journalists across the world to train them on how to push government propaganda. There are 4,291 networks involved and 9,000 trained, brainwashed journalists across the globe. I'd love to know how many Australian journalists. We probably don't need a count at the ABC. We could just call all of them as past the course with flying colours. But I wonder what other networks they're in. 2.7 trillion, that's with a T, in improper payments to Medicare, Medicaid, and overseas organisations. The Bill Gates vaccine organisation Gavi was awarded $4,880 million from USAID, $100 billion in annual payments to individuals who don't even have a social security number, $500 billion to do animal testing. That's the bit we were talking about earlier, since 1998. $1.3 billion to terrorist organizations around the world. Same amount, $1.3 billion saved after shutting down anti-white DEI contracts. $600 million every 2 months to facilitate illegal immigration. $330 million to help Afghanistan grow opium poppies. Yeah, to help Afghanistan grow opium poppies. Remember, the Taliban are in control of Afghanistan at the moment. $697 million to Afghanistan in 2024 alone, with weekly shipments of cash since 2021 of $40 to $80 million. $200 million to build an unused Afghanistan dam, $250 million to build an unused Afghanistan road, $53 million to the Wuhan lab in China for research on the creation of the spicy cough. That's $53 million to create something that has changed the world. $241 million to change the sex transgender animals. Here's $9.2 billion to SSG Advisors, now Resonance Global, to help PepsiCo rethink how it works with farmers. I mean, shit. Anyway, you can see this list does just tend to go on. $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. Oh, God. $1.5 million for art for inclusion for people with disabilities. I've seen one of those art shows. It's really nice, actually. I couldn't understand how they got to, there were these paintings on the wall. They're all these really weird colors and weird shapes and lines. And I was trying to figure out, how it was made and how it was done. And somebody came up and told me they were the mother of the artist. And I said, how did she paint this? And it turns out she put coloured lollies in her mouth and let it dribble at the corner of her mouth and all over the thing. So I don't know if she got $1.5 million for art inclusion for people with disabilities, but she may well have sold that painting. $20 million for a sex change and LGBT activism in Guatemala, of course. $6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles. Oh, my God. $10 million worth of USAID funded meals, which went to Al-Qaeda or linked organizations. $25 million for Deloitte to promote green transportation in the country of Georgia, where they're still using the fucking donkey to get to work. Well, maybe not, but $6 million of American dollars to promote tourism in Egypt. What? Oh, you'll like this. $2.5 million to promote inclusion in Vietnam. Oh, God, it just rolls on, the wastage. $1.2 million to help the African Methodist Episcopal Church Service and Development Agency in Washington, D.C. build a state-of-the-art 440-seat auditorium. You want to know the only thing that makes me feel sick to the stomach about reading this? Because I know it's just, I mean, it's the Americans, isn't it? It's their problem. But we don't have a Doge. And I bet we've got exactly the same problem. I bet we have it may not be to quite those sort of scale numbers, but they will be very big numbers. Have you thought any more about who you would have as the Doge commissioner? Who is our Elon? Could Elon come here and do it for Australia? Because he's going to be out of a job once he does it there with the Americans. That is the deal. Doge comes in, does its job, and the office will be closed in, I suspect, 3 years before the next election. So maybe we could convince Elon to send a team over this way, because $2.3 million for artisanal and small-scale gold mining in the Amazon. $3.9 million for LBGT causes in the Western Balkans. $5.5 million for LBGT activism in Uganda. How much do you think we're contributing to that sort of thing? I mean, staggering. And there is no end to the money pit. Of course, they're trying to convince us all that things in Ukraine are going along swimmingly and that Vladimir Putin is just about to relinquish all the territory that he's taken and apologize to Zelensky as Russia retreats back to the homeland. If you believe that, I've got a bridge in Sydney to sell you. The deep state is still sending over their, they're not still sending over the paid actors and black-hearted actors at that. But this is from back when they still had access to them and were able to send them over to cheer up the people in Ukraine, try and bring a little bit of Hollywood razzmatazz to the war front. Jean-Claude Van Damme, they wheeled him out. They didn't put him near a heater or his face would have melted. But he got $1.5 million for going over there and doing the splits on something. Ben Stiller, $4 million for Ben Stiller to go over there, tell a few jokes, and cheer people up a bit. Sean Penn, who I don't think cheers people up anywhere he goes, sour-faced bastard that he has, got $5 million to go over and frown at people in the Ukraine there for a while, have a couple of photo ops and make it, look like Hollywood had come to town. Orlando Bloom, he didn't take Miranda. He did take $8 million for going over there, though, and I don't know whether he was waving his sword or his bow and arrow or just his blonde hair or whatever, but $8 million must have been a worthwhile wave. And I think topping out, at least on this list, the figure for the highest amount paid to anybody to go over and cheer up the Ukrainians is Angelina Jolie. Now, with lips like that, she could probably demand $20 million because that's what she got. you'd hope for $20 million, you got a lot of very happy Ukrainians. I mean, just saying. Don't you think? Sickening. They sent $11 million to Vietnam to teach them how to stop burning their rubbish. Because burning rubbish bad for the climate. Oh, there's so much climate bullshit in this thing. It goes on and on and on. And in the health system, like there's $500 million at least that they've found in waste there without even really looking very hard. The Department of Education is a ripper. There's almost $1 billion they found in one file for education contracts. That's going to be a good one. They found $9 million on assorted intersectional feminist projects in the Department of Agriculture. I'm biting my tongue. Because there's... Oh, don't. $9 million on assorted intersectional feminist projects in the Department of Agriculture. What could they be growing? One asks. Here's one that caught my eye, which I think is very relevant for Australians. $59 million a year from the FEMA budget to pay for a hotel in New York City which houses illegal immigrants. Now, I believe that money has now been recovered. From whom and how, I don't know. But the Australian government has done that very thing. It has hired out hotels and motels, particularly in Queensland, but I'm sure they've done it in other states. And they have housed people there for years in some case. I'm not even sure if they didn't wind up buying a motel up on the north side of Brisbane and just making it a live-in facility for these people. There was also a hotel that was very close to the Gabba where they had a lot of sexual predators contained. They were not yet allowed to enter our community, and they were of such a violent or threatening nature that they couldn't be sent back to their home countries, or their home countries weren't accepting them. So they were locked in limbo for a while, and they used to get out and complain, and there were some sad and lonely women out there who used to go out and support them, who really didn't understand what they were supporting at the time, and I hope that all of them survived that contact. $45 million a year for 3 Environmental Protection Agency DEI contracts. That is diversity, equity, and inclusion contracts. I mean, God, the amount of frigging waste. $33 million on the Department of Education grants for 4 equity assistance centres. That's been stopped now. Although Trump, because he outlawed that sort of education in the education system, as I said last night, there are still 5 school districts who are teaching this shit. And, well, all I can say is that I believe the Americans are starting to get very pissed off with it all. These revelations are coming about not one a day. They're coming about multiple times a day. And they're not one little revelation. We are talking about wastage on a scale the globe has never even heard before. And I've heard me talk about the Americans getting angry before. Well, I think the time is coming, folks.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready for people to start going to jail for what they've done, or just shut up about it. Because every time I hear some shit that Doge just found, 100 billion here, 59 million here, billions here, millions here, and nobody gets fired, nobody goes to jail. All you doing by that is just pissing me off. It's hard enough to pay taxes, but then I got to pay taxes after I hear this bull crap. I'm telling you, it's getting old, and it's getting old in a hurry. If you're not going to hold these people accountable, and you're not going to send these people to jail, then by God, quit telling me about it. Quit putting it on the news every day so I've got to watch it. Quit tweeting it. If you're not going to do anything, then just shut the hell up about it. Don't make it worse by keep shoving this shit in our face.
Oops, forgot my button. How long before they stop talking to cameras and start picking up, their collection? I don't think it's going to be too long, folks. I don't think it's going to be too long at all. Denise, thank you very much for your comment. I was just scrolling through very quickly and saw that one. I'd love to be paid $1 million. And if you think the info tonight is any good and you can throw us a donation, we would love it. We don't necessarily need $1 million right now, but by God, we could use it. I could tell you it would solve an awful lot of problems, which I'm not going into because we've all got problems. And Jim Caviezel's got problems. If you're unfamiliar with Jim Caviezel, can I ask you, do yourself the proverbial favor and go and have a look at a television series. It's on the streaming. Well, you might find some of it on Channel 7, I think it aired on initially. But it is available on one of the streaming services. I want to say it's Prime or Stan. It's a show called Person of Interest. Now, this is the first time I came across Jim Caviezel. It used to be on late at night. And the show is about a character that Caviezel plays, just named John, who is ex-military. He's a bum, down and out, wanting to kill himself. Usual way these vet stories start out. He's found by a gentleman who is very mysterious and plays a bit of a standoff role initially. And this gentleman is one of the co-creators of an amazingly powerful AI system that is a surveillance and intelligence system that is used to predict and find people, predict bad events and find people that are involved in them. The problem is it only spits out social security numbers, and that's all the information they get. If they get that number, that person is either in trouble or the trouble, and they've got to go to work and try and find out how this works. Now, it's a great show from that perspective, but the surveillance aspect of it is why I would encourage you to have a look at it, because it is exactly what they've built us into now. And if you watch Person of Interest, you will see just some of the surveillance capacities that they have available to them now, today, so that they can watch us. Anyway, Caviezel has done a couple of things. He's done a couple of movies with Mel Gibson. I think The Passion of Christ was one of them, where he played Christ. And he is a deeply religious man. He's been involved in saving the children. He's involved in quite a number of projects in that regard. And in this little piece I want to play you, he tells you about how he essentially lost his career in Hollywood.
Adrenochrome. That's not true. It's C9H9NO3. This is a chemical compound that is absolutely, this has been around in modern science since the 1930s. You can actually, there's a synthetic form and there's a regular, natural form, which is caused by torturing little kids to get their adrenaline up, essentially, and then extracting it from them. When you sit and meet, and so I brought this up a few years ago, and all of a sudden I was attacked by every media. Look it up. It's there. They absolutely went after me. And the next day, I never heard from my agency for 14 months. My lawyers let me go. My agency never called me after that, and essentially I was done.
Well, he and Mel Gibson have banded together. Mel Gibson, of course, being appointed by the president to clean up Hollywood. I don't know how that's going. They may have found the keys to the street sweeper. I don't think there's anybody left in Hollywood. It would really only be a street sweeper job. But with a bit of luck, they'll be building something bigger and better when it comes back, if it comes back, in whatever guise it does come back. Finally tonight, I want to play you a piece that will, I hope, enlighten you a little bit as to how close we are to the Americans and how close they are to the British, like we are. Now, I first learned of this connection when I was studying with Fitz with the Magna Carta stuff a few years ago, and we were doing a couple of international chats with radio and podcasters in America at the time. And we discussed whether or not we would bring this particular topic up with them, because it leads to a can of worms that most Americans are unwilling to believe unless they do their own research. And like many Australians, many Americans are unwilling to do their own research. So this that I'm about to play you, I can tell you, is 100% factual, what you're about to hear and see. I'll ask you what you think it changes at the end, okay? The knowledge of this. And if that knowledge became broadly available to Americans in particular, what do you think would happen?
Sobering study of the signed treaties and charters between Britain and the United States exposes a shocking truth. The United States has always been, and still is, a British Crown colony. King James I was famous not for just changing the Bible into the King James Version, but for signing the First Charter of Virginia in 1606. That charter granted America's British forefathers a license to settle and colonize America. The charter also guaranteed that future kings and queens of England would have sovereign authority over all the citizens and colonized land in America stolen from the Indians. After America declared its independence from Great Britain, the Treaty of 1783 was signed. That treaty specifically identifies the King of England as the Prince of the United States and contradicts the belief that America won the War of Independence. Although King George III of England gave up most of his claims over his American colonies, he kept his right to continue receiving payment for his business venture of colonizing America. If America had really won the War of Independence, they would never have agreed to pay debts and reparations to the King of England. When Congress passed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, the U.S. President was made subservient to the King of England. The 13th Amendment is called the Title of Nobility Amendment and forbids U.S. presidents and their officials from using royal titles like King or Prince or Baron. For some mysterious reason, the 13th Amendment, which was ratified in 1810, no longer appears on current copies of the Constitution. America's blood-soaked War of Independence against the British bankrupted America and turned its citizens into permanent debt slaves of the King. In the War of 1812, the British torched and burned to the ground the White House and all U.S. government buildings, and destroyed ratification records of the U.S. Constitution. 1 century later, a corrupt U.S. Congress committed the biggest theft in world history. They passed Paul Warburg's Federal Reserve Act in 1913, handing over America's gold and silver reserves and total control of America's economy to the Rothschild banksters. Most Americans still believe that the Fed, or Federal Reserve, is the government. It is not. The Fed is a privately owned banking system whose majority Class A shareholders are the Rothschilds, Warburgs, Kuhn and Loeb, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Israel Seif, and the Lehman Brothers. This private banking cartel is the Fed and is never audited and never pays taxes. They print and design America's money, which displays their symbols of an Egyptian pyramid, a Masonic all-seeing eye, and the words "In God We Trust." Who exactly is the God they trust? They also collect American taxpayers' money through the IRS. Then they loan it back again with interest to pay for roads, bridges, and other public works. American presidents are handpicked and financed by these special interest power groups. Like George W. Bush, John Forbes Kerry, whose initials are JFK, is a member of Yale University's Skull and Bones Brotherhood. The Forbes part of John Kerry's name identifies his descendancy from Captain Robert Bennett Forbes, who was a drug runner for the Rothschilds' opium drug trade with China in the 1800s. Most U.S. citizens believe that the United States is a country and that the President is the most powerful man on earth. The United States is not a country. It is a corporation, and the President is President of the Corporation of the United States. He and his elected officials work for the corporation, not for the American people. Since the United States is a corporation, who owns the corporation of the United States? Like Canada and Australia, whose leaders are prime ministers of the Queen and whose land is called Crown Land, the United States is just another Crown colony.
Just another Crown colony. Good luck convincing them of that. But it is the truth. 100% the truth. And if you do the research, follow the history, which is mostly hidden because it has been hidden from us, you can find it out. So things like the 13th Amendment piece in there that talking about that it doesn't appear in the constitutions today. Who said that the 13th Amendment couldn't appear in a constitution and why? It's all a little weird. Before I go tonight, folks, I want to remind you of why many of us do this. Why you feel the way you do, why I feel the way I do. This is a video that is a couple of years old now, but it is important that we remember why we do this.
To raise a matter this afternoon for the attention of the Minister for Education, and I have to say it is not often in this job I am absolutely shocked. I thought I'd seen everything, but this one is just beyond words. It is a note from a constituent who says, "Hi Bernie, this is a worksheet that my 10-year-old daughter brought home from school," and it includes a photo of the worksheet. "Part of her homework was to discuss with her father his erections and ejaculation. I find this very disturbing and sickening, as indeed do I have to say. I have complained to the school and was told it was just part of the curriculum. Can you advise who else I should make a complaint to?" Well, I could go on for days who she could complain to. "My daughter still plays with dolls and writes letters to the Tooth Fairy. There is no way any little girl should be told to ask these questions." Well, so say all of us. What the hell is going on in this state when 10-year-old girls are told to go home and talk to your father about his erections and about his ejaculations? What the hell is going on here? How the hell are we supposed to protect our kids when this sort of perversion is in our schools? This is what is being dished up to them on a daily basis. In a primary school. Not even a secondary school, a primary school. This is just unbelievable. It's staggering. I could not imagine the reaction. I have 3 daughters. I could not imagine the reaction of any of them if they were told to do that. They would be traumatised for life. I don't think they'd ever recover. I'm not sure I'd ever recover. This is just deplorable.
We want a bit more of that, folks. A lot more of that. All power to the Kiwis for stepping up. Well done. Folks, it's been a fun night tonight. Glad you've had the opportunity to come and join me, and I hope you've learned something a little new or had a little bit of a laugh or just basically enjoyed yourself. That's what it's all about. If we can't have a laugh now and again, our world tends to fall to pieces. And I haven't done enough laughing in the last week or two. That's going to change. So look out. That's all I'm going to say. Look out. Going to be some interesting things coming up over the course of the rest of this week, I think, particularly coming out of America. Stay tuned there. Tomorrow, doing some work on the bus tomorrow. So whether or not there is a show tomorrow night will entirely depend on whether or not this seat or the other seat, or in fact, a number of other seats are still in the bus. We'll be pulling a bit out tomorrow so we can get to the top of the motor. So if all things being equal in a beautiful world, we get it back together again, we'll have a show. If not, it'll probably be something off the mobile phone out the front of the bus, or maybe the laptop. We might be able to set up out there. Just depends on what sort of a day it is. Also, if you have a dog or an animal that has back issues, maybe it walks a bit funny. Maybe you don't know what to look for. Well, might be able to introduce you to a bloke who can help there in a very big way. If you think you have a dog, particularly, that might have some back issues, we need you to take a video of someone walking the dog, and you just shoot a video of them walking away from you and then walking towards you and send that to me. And Dr. John and I might nearly turn up at your place to see if we can't help. And I have seen Dr. John's work firsthand. I've watched a couple of videos. They are awful quality videos, so that's why I haven't shown them to you. But I have seen some amazing transformations in animals. A possum that had lost the use of its rear legs, after a number of treatments, regained the use of its legs. I saw him hypnotize that possum. I didn't know possums could be hypnotized, but he hypnotized that possum, working on all sorts of dogs and larger animals too, like he's done equine and all that sort of stuff. There are, I don't know how many sort of animal chiropractors there are in this nation, but I've known John for a little while now. We sort of bump into each other in the freedom movement a bit, and was lucky enough to spend a couple of weekends with him. And one of those weekends we had Cass's dog Kobe with us, and Kobe has been known to do a few strange things, and he has run on this property pretty hard up some of the hills, and I thought he'd torn some muscles in his shoulder. He's sort of walking a funny way and limping a funny way. And John said, no, he hasn't done that. He's put this thing out here, or he's done this, or he's done that. Anyway, Cass walked him up and back. John spent maybe 10, 15 minutes, crack, and there are cracks. And this is a bull Arab we're talking about, who generally, I've never seen such a relaxed dog. Really, John has this touch with the animals I've never seen, and I want to show it to you. So you will meet John, and if you happen to have a puppy that is a bit sore, or something a bit bigger than a puppy, I don't know how he goes with cats. I think cats fight back. But John has been known to work on all sorts of things. He's done work at Australia Zoo, amongst other places. So we're going to give you people the opportunity to meet John, and he might be doing a little bit of traveling with me. And as we come through towns, I need to know where you are so we can set a route, so to speak. But we will come to your town, meet you and meet your puppy or your animal, and see whether or not John can help in any way, shape or form. Yes, Sandy, he will be coming down your way. And yes, he has worked with donkeys. He has worked with horses. In fact, I don't think there's too many animals that he hasn't worked with. So I'm looking forward to bringing that to you. So if you do have one of those sort of animals, please email me, carl@vofhq.com. I need to know what sort of animal you've got, what problems you think it has, and whereabouts in the world you are, and a contact phone number. So let us know where you are, and that way, as we make our way south, and we will be making our way south in the not too distant future, we hopefully will be able to see some people down the East Coast, be that all the way from Brisbane down to Sydney, then, well, depending, we might go the whole southeast corner and come in through Gippsland and into Victoria that way. We'll catch up with some folks in Victoria, possibly South Australia, and make our way back up again on a different route back up through Queensland before heading to far north Queensland. Now, I don't know how long John will come with me. He's very happy to come with me at the moment for as long as he wants, but he might hate me after 2 weeks on the road, so we'll see how it goes. And you guys might have really healthy dogs and we don't have any need for him. So, you know, that'll be how it is. But if you're keen and you'd like to get a little bit of help, then we would love to see if we can help. Sunflower, can he help with husbands? Yes, funnily enough, he is a chiropractor, but I'm not sure whether or not he is a human chiropractor or not. He's got so many qualifications, this guy. I think, I want to say he's been working on animals for 40 years. So he knows which button to push in my back to make it go funny in a nice way. Well, that sounds a bit sick. But you know what I mean. Not the Catholic school kind of way, just like a normal way. And yeah, it works. It worked very well for that. Got rid of my headache. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Gisela, you'd love your back fixed. Well, we'll see what we can do. Use reflex points. Yep. Reflex points are another. Well, in fact, I know he used the reflex points on Kobe, particularly lower legs and all that sort of stuff. He did maybe 10 minutes work, wouldn't have been 15, 10 minutes work on Kobe, and it changed his gait completely. He wasn't crabbing. So if you watch your dog as it walks away from you, if its front legs and rear legs are not in alignment, that's what's called crabbing. So if one set of legs is to one side or the other, that's called crabbing, and that can be fixed pretty easily. There are other things to watch for. Dogs can't tell you if they're in pain. So if your dog is walking and on every, let's say Kobe, for instance, it's his right shoulder that was sore. So every time he put weight on his right paw, his head would go down, right? And it's a natural function of all animals. If they've got cows are the same, bulls are the same. If they've got something wrong with their leg, their front leg, their head will go down with it when their foot hits the ground. So watch for that in your dog. And that could mean that their spine is a bit out of alignment. They've, done something, cracked something, moved something. There are plenty of people who have had animals who've been told by vets they need to have surgery. In fact, my daughter is one of them. Chili apparently needs a $6,500 surgery on her knee. Not before we go and see Dr. John, I can tell you. In fact, Chili might nearly be the first patient I show you. But yes, we're looking forward to bringing Dr. John to you either on the screen or in person, whichever way it works. So I hope it goes well for you, and I'm sure it will for the dog. And we look forward to seeing you. So Carl at vofhq.com, and we'll see if we can't help you with your animals. Anyway, I've been raving on for a bit longer than an hour tonight, so my apologies if you were staying up late. Have a good one, and tomorrow is yet another day. As I say, might be a bit funny with the show tomorrow night. Something will happen. We might wind up showing you the motor. Won't that be exciting? There'll be something tomorrow at some stage. I'm just not sure what form it will take at this stage. So don't panic if it's not the normal thing. Keep an eye out on all the channels just in case. And be safe on the roads, folks, because there are plenty of dickheads out there today. I was one of them for a while.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!